All right, all right. What's good, y'all? All right, let's bring that down. Hope everybody is well. What's happening? It's been a little minute. I don't think I've done a live since June, so I apologize about that. But I hope everybody is well. Shout out to those of you who came through a little early. Appreciate that. Let me drop this one. Come on. There it is. All right. Sorry, I'm still having some mixer trouble, so sometimes the sound is a bit off. So let me know if anything kind of disrupts that for you. But in the meantime, all right, let's see. Shout out to everybody that's come through. Adric, what's up? Black Males, what's happening? Christian, Mark, I appreciate you as usual, man. Appreciate the support. DJ, AKA, what's up? Shout out to Dark Power for the support on the Cash App. Appreciate that. Blood Boiling, what's going on? Anthony, Prince, what's happening, man? Inspired Truth, shout out to you, and I appreciate the membership donations. Thank you for that support. Indigo, what's going on? Lean, Outspoken Introvert, what's happening? Nameless, what's good, man? Good to see you, man. Oos, Inspired Truth, what's up? Malika, what's happening, brother? I meant to call you last week. I went to go check out that Spike Lee joint, which is only playing at one theater in Fresno, and I don't know if it's still playing, but I meant to, touch ground with you about that. But anyway, my apologies for that. Christopher, what's happening? Code Father X, what's going on? Let me see. Leon, what's up? HBD, Landon, what's going on? Shout out for the support, Malika. Thank you for that. And y'all know the deal, man. Like, share, subscribe, join, support the channel so we can continue to bring you this independent black male thought. What's up, Miles? What's going on? Let's see. Nameless says, bowing in to listen in on this. Hope everyone is doing well this evening. That's right. Depending on your location. Real talk. Things have been a bit crazy. But at the same time, man, I'm glad to be here. So it's been a very interesting week. This last Thursday was the first day of school for my campus. So I spent the last week getting ready for that and had to start teaching Thursday. And then had to drive with my son to drop him off for his third year. So he's a junior, y'all. You know what I mean? And in a blink of the eye, he will be done. So I'm still wrapping my head around it, but just dropped him off at his campus, and he starts up Monday morning. So met his roommates, all that good stuff. So he's in there. But this stuff is going quick, man. So those of you with kids, y'all know the deal, man. You got little kids and you don't know, them old folks was right. This shit goes quick. Pay attention, take pictures, I take the opportunity to have conversations. He and I had a deep one while we were at his campus. Before I left, he got in the car and we were having a conversation about some of the things he needed. My son is very independent. He doesn't like to accept help unless he absolutely has to, which I like about him. I'm not trying to change that, but I had to make him understand something that I think fathers need to make clear to sons. And I told him, I said, look, the things that I'm doing to help you, because I think he needed a desk and a chair or something like that for his room. And he was like, no, I'm all right. I said, let me explain something to you. It's your legacy, that I'm extending to you. And in essence, it's part of what I consider your inheritance. There's certain things that I'm going to do throughout your lifetime. And then there are other things I'm setting up for when I pass. You know what I mean? So we usually talk about an inheritance after someone passes. I said, but there are certain things that happen while you're alive, helping you with your first car, you know what I mean? Providing you a certain type of support, when you're playing sports as a kid, participating as a parent, and sometimes as a coach. I've done that just to make sure that things, go and he's participating and getting the support he needs. But my point is, there are certain types of things I explained to him that I'm committed to in your lifetime while I'm still here that are part of what I consider your inheritance. There's a certain number of resources that are material and some that are immaterial, like wisdom. Certain conversations we're going to have about relationships and women and things we're going to talk about in regard to money and navigating friends and all that kind of stuff. Those are things that are yours. You know what I'm saying? So getting you a desk while you're in school is not something that you need to be independent about. I got you, because that's part of the commitment. You know, one of the things that he and I have agreed upon, or really I've extended to him, is, you know, I went to school, my parents couldn't really support me much. So I left with a lot of debt. You know, it took me a lot of years to get that off. My gift to you is that your bachelor's is covered. I got you. And when you have kids, you know, whatever you deem necessary for them to transition into adulthood, you try and take it a step further than what I could do. You know what I mean? That's the goal. You know, not to make them weak, but just to help them transition. You know what I mean? So I said, you know, at the end of the day, I need you to understand there's certain things I'm going to do. And that is not me doing you a favor. That's the task of a father. Certain things I'm going to do. You know what I mean? I'm going to be there when your child is born. There are certain types of babysitting that I will be happy to do to an extent. We'll establish those boundaries when we get there. But I'm just saying there's certain responsibilities that are in play. And one of the main ones is I always got your back, whether you like what I have to say or not. That's a responsibility I have as a father, and that is part of your inheritance as well. There's a certain type of loving presence that I'm going to provide for you, and it may not always feel loving. It's going to be tailored to the situation and, of course, what I know about you. But my point is, these are things that I consider damn near owed to you. So this is not something you need to, this is not a favor you got to turn down. This is just part of what's owed to you as my son. There are things that I'm going to do, things I've committed to. And I said, some of those things I committed to before you were even conceived. I said, there are things that I decided to do for you when I was still in high school. These are just things. And I said, but the biggest thing is, and this is something I said on Facebook, these are things we have to talk to about our sons and model for them so that they know what to do when it's their turn. You know what I mean? So just a little word. But other than that, I just wanted to kind of update you guys on a little bit of what's been going on. I will share this though. He called me yesterday after I dropped him off Thursday, and he was telling me things were getting bad. You know what I mean? He said he was heading to the grocery store, and he said people were approaching him. Multiple people were approaching him to sell things to make rent. And I was like, are these students, or are you just talking about random people? He said, both, Pop. He said, there are students that are living near me, and then there are random people literally walking the streets selling whatever they could to make rent. You know what I mean? And I was like, yeah, it's getting there. It's getting there. You know, winter is here for real. The other thing that really surprised me, and this is something he told me last spring, he said a lot of the Black students that he knew dropped out. Now, I'm obviously not going to mention which university he's at, but there's not a lot in the first place. And I'd say his first year, by the end of his first year, he counted 7 brothers on the entire campus, including himself, by the end of his first year. And I met a couple of them that dropped out. Last day, you know, packing up his stuff to come home for the summer, I met the one and their parents, and the kid was dropping out. So by the second year, which was last year, in the spring semester, folks were dropping off to go get jobs to help out at home. You know what I mean? So shit is getting real in the field. You know, a lot of people. Let me see. Malika says, Christian needs you to warn him to stay away from. Yeah, man. We all got to be on task because we know our sons are going to meet them. They're going to meet Sha'Carris. You know what I mean? They're definitely going to meet them. Shout out to Salty Balls. Appreciate the support. It says boycott Nike. Okay. Growth Talk. Shout out to Growth Talk. Y'all make sure you support the Growth Talk with Kofa channel. It says running around with my son, watching from the shadows. Real talk. Yeah. Shout out to Spain Man. Appreciate that support. Yeah. So anyway, those are some of the things that are just going on. Things are getting real. We're just starting to pay attention. This was something I wanted. I mean, I did a video. The last upload I did, I think, was on Sha'Carri. And I played the video where she actually was assaulting Christian Coleman. But we're going to have a conversation about a couple of things that I think are kind of related to this that need to be said. And we're going to put out some new terminology so we can make clear some of the things that have been happening and calling into it. Yep. Miles says college admissions are on a major decline, man. Real talk. Ahmed, what's happening? To Adrian says the crazy part is that black men will still be called quitters for dropping out of school. You know, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Shout out to AB. What's up, man? Yeah. Indigo, what's going on? So yeah. So y'all know the deal. I am going to play. Now I haven't played on my show, even though a lot of people have, the actual arrest, and I need to. I don't like to be repetitive. I mean, this has been played a great deal already, but certain things I have to say. And the other reason I do it is for the archive, because, you know, these celebrities, I don't really like doing a lot of celebrity stuff, but some of it ends up being pretty important. And a year from now, hell, 6 months from now, I may not even remember this. So if you don't provide the videos at the time, they can end up disappearing. So we're going to start off with what takes place when Sha'Carri is actually arrested. And we're going to go from there and look at a little bit of this footage, because she drops some interesting kind of little statements here and there as this goes. So let's go ahead and check it out. July 27th. This is her airport arrest. I don't think I'm going to play the whole thing, but I am going to play, you know, a couple of segments just to get it on the record. So, you know, here we go. Let me make sure. Yeah, I think the sound should be good. So give me a 1 if you can hear it.
7th, 2025, Sha'Carri Richardson was allegedly involved in an altercation at an airport during which she yanked her boyfriend's backpack, repeatedly pushed him into a wall column, and, according to bystanders, threw a pair of headphones at him. Witnesses said the dispute had been...
Well, he was saying, hey, there's cameras. I think that's what he was in
All right, good.
And then you actually saw him there with him.
I heard
Another officer.
She had my bag. I want to get my bag, and we're both going to the same place.
You're seated together?
So we're staying together.
You're seated together.
I'm not sure, because we were supposed to be going a long time ago.
Okay.
And so now we're just sitting in the airport.
You guys having just a rough patch in your relationship? What's going on, man? Okay. So you tell me about he did you lay hands on her?
No, it's nothing like that.
She didn't lay hands on you? Sure. No pushing or hitting? None of that. Just
So we can see already, you know, he's protecting her. And this is what we've been socialized to do for the most part. So this is nothing new, right? Black men protecting black women, even when black men are way out of pocket. And he knows damn well that, you know, even the women in his family would get at him had he, you know, come out and just straight up said it, let alone would he be, you know, laughed and joked about and ridiculed for actually having called the police. So he did his duty, right? As what we've all been taught was a good black man. He did his duty. Let's see what the reward is.
verbal exchange. If that's all it is, it's none of our business. Okay? So if you guys make it on the plane, maybe you should go up there and ask for different seats. Just for some time. All right? So
No, you did not. No.
Now that was brilliant on his part to really show no emotion. To be affable, to be clearly communicative, to possess no intense emotion, even if he felt it, he was smart enough not to display it. Not only with the police officer just now, but even with Sha'Carri, because if you remember the actual tape, when she's kicking him and pushing him and hitting him, he doesn't respond. He responds the way he is here, right? So I give him credit for that, because that would have been a mistake.
Here, so I have in my special bag. Is there anything else that you can let me know? Because now that you have these officers involved, is there anything I need to?
Yeah, why don't you come talk to me over here? Come talk to me over here.
Hi. So we're in a relationship. I will no longer mess with him or what he had going on. He has some stuff in his bag. I just need to get out of my bag. Okay. My iPad, some clothes. I can take it out, put it in my suitcase, brought his bag back. That's pretty much it. But we have a relationship, this kind of thing going on right now. But yeah, exactly. If I brought his bag back, I took all of my belongings out, I would leave him alone. You don't have to worry about me. I have a flight.
Now she's on full performance mode right about here. And when you grow up with black women, you can hear it, right? Most people may have just said, wow, she's being very clear. Now, for us who've grown up with this, we can hear it in her voice. She's performing. She's on display right now. The thing, though, is she thinks she's in a position of power, because when it comes to anything related to intimate partner violence, domestic abuse, as it used to be termed. Women have always held the upper hand, and they knew it. And she's carrying herself like a woman who's frustrated and believes she has the upper hand. But this is all performance.
Let me go for myself. Like I said, I'm on the phone right now. I have all of my belongings, but you don't have to worry about me while I'm in the airport with him at all. I just have to get my belongings out. Yeah, do you need my ID for what? If you don't mind asking? Assault? Oh, Kristen, I assaulted you. Listen, I assaulted you? Okay. I'm so sorry. I'm just making sure. Oh, okay. Oh, one of the TSA people, because I can definitely have evidence of him assaulting me if possible.
Now that I'm gonna play more, but that was the fundamental reason why I had to show this video just then. She knew what she was doing, right? She knew what she was doing. As a black woman talking about a black man to police officers, especially in an international airport, she knew exactly what she was doing when she insinuated, right, that he was the problem. Right? She's starting to turn this around. She's trying to put it off on him after she started to yell at him about what she believed he did, right? Call the police. And even though the cop clarifies that he had nothing to do with it, she still continues to punish him. But it's the moment she decides to turn this around and make it his fault that I think is key. So I'm gonna go back a second and see if we can hear that.
People, because I can definitely have evidence of him assaulting me if possible. Okay, but like I said,
now, y'all know if she had evidence of him assaulting her, she would have long since played it. She'd have released it.
Yes, I do. My name is Sha'Carri Richardson. I do have my ID. Yeah, but I would definitely leave him alone. There's nothing that I want to do with him anymore. Like I said, it was a relationship thing. I need to get my stuff out of his bag.
On the same flight, or?
We are later on in the day, because our flight ended up getting delayed. We're supposed to be leaving around this time of day, but the flight got canceled, so the flight doesn't leave until 10 p.m. ish.
Okay.
So yeah, so if you don't mind, can I step over here? I'll share my ID.
That's fine.
Awesome, thank you. Hi, Christy.
Yeah, you can hear the pitch of the voice. Awesome, thank you. You know, all of this is performance.
So you hear me, right? So this is the position that Christian called me put me into, okay? Because he's a coward, and I don't want anything to do with him at this point going forward. My name is Sha'Carri Richardson. I have no problem with letting you know who I am.
Yep, so she's humiliating him at this point. She's calling him a coward. She's talking cash shit about him. And while in this situation, she thinks it's just going to be a little check. The cops are just going to talk to them. And if she can, you know, give them enough, they'll start to threaten him on her behalf. Now, how far she would want to take it, we don't know. But that's kind of what the vibe is at this moment. She thinks she's in control. She thinks they're operating on her behalf, just checking the scene out because they may have heard something happen. And so she's kind of, you know, in a way trying to intimidate him and also flex on him by having the cops operate on her behalf. Let's see.
Haven't put my hands on him. We had an argument. I will be honest about that. An argument, and that's pretty much it. The argument pretty much is.
And she done already started lying. She said she didn't put her hands on him or nothing, which is funny because they actually do believe this shit. Many of them do believe that it's not putting hands on you unless you're on the ground bloody with black eyes and broken noses. Short of that, anything she does to you, you know. And when you are on the ground after that, and it's usually involving a weapon, that's when she flips it as self-defense. But anything leading up to that, she doesn't really consider putting hands on you. Now, if you so much as hold her shoulders, it's already considered abuse on her part. And there's a lot that goes into that. And one of the biggest things I try to remind people about is that, you know, the way we were introduced to domestic violence in the 1960s and 70s, it was framed around feminists pushing for policy. So the only way we imagined it was the way women described it, which was strictly what men did to women, right? It was purely the Duluth model in effect. It was what men did to women. So both men and women still to this day pretty much consider intimate partner violence in a unidirectional fashion from men to women. So you'll have women that are quite clear that she didn't do anything to him because they fundamentally don't believe that that's what domestic violence or intimate partner violence is. Now, obviously, you have those who are clearly lying and they know they're lying. And I believe she knows she's lying. But you have a lot of people that will talk like this. And as far as they're concerned, they're telling the truth because they don't believe that intimate partner violence has anything to do with what women can do to men.
He's a liar. He lied about a couple things just personally, you know, just in a relationship. I pretty much officers can understand what a relationship is about, but he lied. He's a liar. And that was something that I kind of just grasped and emotionally. I'm just like, bet you do your thing, but you're asking me for things that is within my possession, and for my right, I don't have to give it to you because it's in my possession. But when it came to the point that I saw that he chose to make it more about the police and things of that nature, that shows that he made a choice. So I just want to be more professional and just come professionally and let you know, like, hey, relationship thing, have no problem,
so
and working with you guys. So I'm not hiding. Right.
Mm-hmm. Was there any type of physical assault?
No, I didn't touch him. He didn't touch me. I will be honest.
Hit him with anything?
No, I haven't hit him with anything. Like not at all. He had headphones that were mine, and I just grabbed those headphones, but not physically. If you would like to ask me, you can ask him, but I don't want anything.
I just want to get your side.
Okay, absolutely. You can ask him whatever you need to ask him. But yeah, you're a coward.
Is it Sha'Carri?
Sha'Carri.
Sha'Carri.
Thank you so much, Sha'Carri.
Hey, Sha'Carri. What's your phone number for you?
And like I said, I don't have a problem cooperating because, like I said,
See, she's going to tell them they have permission to ask him questions. She really thinks she's running this shit, but it's not just a matter of her naivete, her ignorance, or stupidity. How far you want to maybe take your assessment of her? It's not strictly about that. It has to do with how women have been able to relate to the police in regard to a black man in the past. And the time period from my lifetime to hers, especially, women have been able to manage the discussion. So she's not completely out of pocket in the sense that she's, fantasizing about how much power she has. She's actually operating in a way women have learned to operate because they've been given that type of power. And these kind of circumstances, thanks to DV policy, women have been able to manage and direct the nature of the conversation and the story itself, the narrative of the event. They've been able to direct it, and police were often trained to extend them that. So she's operating within the framework of what women have been able to do for decades. She doesn't realize that there have been some shifts lately, thanks in part to men's activists that have been really pushing the letter of the law in regard to domestic violence and intimate partner violence. But this is not something that is caught up on the ground level yet. So she's going to be surprised, as we know.
Said it was some relationship stuff, so that's why I came up.
Do you get your boarding pass by chance? Just so I can just take a photo of that.
Absolutely, yes, and you can contact me whenever you need to. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good.
Now my boarding pass. That is Publix. Right here.
Perfect.
This is my boarding pass.
So this is the one that got delayed.
So this is, I want to say, my original one, and this one.
That's your new one?
No, this is my original one, and this is the one that got delayed. And then the new one, I think, is in my personal one. But you can take a picture, and I'll look for you for the new one if you don't mind me.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Shout out to Charles.
I don't think I have it, but they moved my flight to 10 p.m. If you don't mind. I don't think I just physically have it, but you can take a picture. I don't mind at all.
So last year, are you heading back for
Yes. No. I'm heading to Eugene, Oregon.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I can probably find it this
way. Yeah, you can find it that way. It's
just to kind of document.
No, please document everything. I have no problem with.
Now, as a black male, you've seen your mother do this, you've seen your women do this, your family member. She's code switching, right? Because the tone, the words she's using, all that stuff is very different when she's pissed at you and it's just the two of you. But she switched this up, and hearing the performance used to piss me off even as a kid, because I was like, "What are you doing? You don't talk like that." But I noticed when my mother was talking to police officers or teachers or people at work, this would be how she talks. So black women have learned how to code switch a long time ago, and she's clearly doing that here. And it's just it's always rung as dishonest to me. I know it's a survival mechanism, but when you've seen it used against you, like in this kind of circumstance, there's a part of you that can't help but hate it, because you know that it's usually followed up by something that ends up happening to you. So when code switching is used against you, you develop a certain type of attitude about it when you hear women performing it around you. Now, here we go.
You should document anything. And I'm going to do my part so you can do your best, document everything. I would never If I ever talk to him again, please talk to him. If I ever talk to him again, you punch me in my face. I would never, ever talk to him again. I would never do it to him again. So hi, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right.
I'm good.
No, okay.
But I had to put down, I'm so sorry you're grabbing me right now.
Yep, you're under arrest.
I'm under arrest right now? What am I under arrest for? What am I under arrest for? Christian, are you serious right now?
Yep.
Okay. I didn't assault him though.
Video cameras.
I literally we were having an argument. I'm not resisting, so you don't have to harder. Christian, are you serious right now? Christian.
State, he doesn't get a say.
But I understand we were arguing. But I understand entirely. We were arguing. Okay, I'm not gonna resist, but I'm telling you that we were arguing. I didn't assault him. I didn't do anything wrong. But the fact that your guys are doing this to me, and he's the man in this situation.
part of what she's upset about, just in how the police are treating her now, you and I know they are not doing anything particularly egregious. Ain't nobody called her out her name. Ain't nobody raised their tone. They haven't slammed her to the ground. Nothing's happened that's severely out of pocket, except the fact that she's getting cuffs put on her, which of course she doesn't like. But I could do a whole show, and maybe I need to, because I've loaded these things into Facebook in the last week a few times. The way Black women are arrested now is mind-boggling. I'm not calling for increased incarceration or any of that, but I just, when I observe how Black women are arrested, it's amazing to me what they're able to get away with, which shows you the depth of Western chivalry and how it's still in play. Because I've watched these women just in the last freaking week. I've watched these women yelling, cussing, screaming at cops, acting all kind of out of pocket. And I'm watching now, these, obviously we got body cams going, so I'm not going to say that these cops are just, inherently pure beings that fall out the sky, but whether they're performing or not, they're not acting out of pocket. And I'm watching how far women are able to go. Now, clearly white women can go the full distance, but even Black women get away with all kinds of shit that amazes me on the ground and still are oblivious to it. But Black men watching these kind of videos, we're often sitting there with our jaw on the floor like, how the hell do you get that kind of treatment based on the way you're acting? Now, she's not severely out of pocket, but she's still running her mouth. And she's still talking like she can direct this. And she's so shocked that she's even being arrested, of course, because she hasn't, Black women really haven't had to be in many circumstances, but we'll continue.
I'm going to comply. I am. I'm not going to argue with you at all. But she had me on camera, but at the same time, what he has on camera, I have my phone, show something different. So if I need to show that, I will. Okay, but I have my phone that shows something different. But Christian, thank you, Christian.
Don't talk to him right now.
Okay, I won't. Thank you so much, officer.
Yeah, see, the emasculating continues. It continues. And it's so smooth how swiftly she shifted into emasculating him publicly. She's yelling it out for everybody around to hear. And they've told her several times, he had nothing to do with this. We saw you. He has nothing to do with this. He didn't call anybody. He didn't even press charges. But she's emasculating him, right?
They are arresting me right now, Christian. Sissy, they're arresting me right now. Am I gonna go actually to jail right now? Wait, but right now, I didn't. Can he tell you that I didn't do nothing to him? Christian, are you serious right now? Christian, I'm about to go to jail because of you right now. You know what? Okay.
I'm about to go to jail because of you. See, the line where I think it gets interesting when you hear these women having arguments with men. It's not about owning their behavior, right? You have to own your behavior. You have to be accountable for your behavior, but you also have to be accountable for her behavior. The reaction I hear many women say is, you made me, right? You made me feel this way. You made me do what I did. You made me hit you because of what you said or what you didn't do, what I told you to do. There's no line of accountability when it comes to women's behavior. And many of the institutions that we operate within, like the police department, for example, they allow enough space for women to not be accountable for their behavior, that it further normalizes her making other people responsible for her behavior. So what she says here, look, I'm being arrested because of you. He didn't do anything to you. Even if he took your earphones or whatever, you accused him of doing, you were the one that initiated violence. You were the one that, tried to embarrass him, pushing him around, yelling at him, hitting him, right? Throwing things at him, right? You did all of that. And you continued to try and embarrass him while the police were talking to you. He did none of that. But in her mind, he did it. It's his fault because he made her. And the biggest thing you'll hear from women is, you made me feel this way. No. And this is one of the things that my father taught me when I was a kid. He had one of those sit downs with me, and it was hard for me to get as a kid, but it took me a while to understand. He said, people don't make you feel anything. You choose your emotions. Like putting clothes on in the morning. You choose how to feel about things that happen. And as a kid, I would react so quickly emotionally that I didn't understand what he was saying. It didn't feel like a choice on my part. But as I grew older and matured, I realized he was right. We choose our emotional responses. A lot of women aren't socialized with that kind of sensibility. Their behavior, and I'm talking 60, 70-year-old women I've had conversations with, they fully believe that other people are responsible for their emotional choices. And this is kind of supported by policy in a way, or at least the implementation of policy in terms of how it's actually happening on the ground. So the fact that this is kind of this kind of situation in and of itself is a bit of an aberration, because she's being held accountable for her behavior, but usually they're not. And they're able to continue long into adulthood believing that other people are responsible for their emotional choices.
Okay, I will never talk to you again. Ever.
You gotta go this way.
Okay. Can we please, like, hold these, like, protect the custodies or something? Like, this is like a mission on when we were in a relationship, we had an argument. Are you serious right now? So, I'm under arrest for assault right now. Okay, let me go. I'm not resisting or anything.
We know you're not.
I'm not resisting. So, that's on record, correct?
Yes, it's on audio, video, everything's being audio, video. Okay, radio.
Okay, absolutely. Can I at least get the handcuffs off? Like, I'm not violent or anything.
It's policy when you guys go to jail.
Policy. So, are y'all gonna arrest him? I plan on pressing charges on him then. Okay.
Now see that? I plan on pressing charges on him then. For what? She's used to the fact that women have been able to do that. Usually just at their word, a man can be put out of his own house. He could be sent to jail just at her word. They're used to having the power to control the narrative and use these types of law enforcement agencies to do their bidding in a way, directly speaking. I mean, they're used to it. And you can tell she's used to it. She's used to it, whether she's done it before or she grew up seeing women around her do it. Either way, and it's probably both, she's used to it. And she tries to throw it out at here because these kind of things have often worked. It's not working in this moment, and she's not understanding why. Right? She's not understanding why. Now, one of the things I think dramatically changed a lot of this was technology. Because when I was growing up, you really didn't have body cams. That wasn't, there wasn't any kind of common thing. Right? You had her word versus yours. Right? That was it. Now you didn't have smartphones recording. Now I'm seeing, cops showing up and guys are able to pull out video of the entire occurrence, whether she hit herself, whether she told him in advance, I'm going to lie on you because I'm mad at you, whatever it was, you're able to record. These things are changing the narrative. It's like going back to Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. Now, if Johnny just got in court and said, she told me that nobody would believe me if I came forward and said that she abused me, nobody would have paid attention. The fact that he had it recorded is what challenged people. And it's forcing society, technology and how we're using it is forcing the society to come to grips with the fact that women are human beings. They lie, they manipulate as much as anybody else. They're not, these kind of Victorian notions of pure femininity. It's forcing society to deal with the reality of what we've always been able to dance around, and that is female accountability. So it's changing the culture. And even though the letter of the law is often written in a gender neutral manner to where IPV should be able to apply to women as easily as it applies to men, we haven't always implemented it that way. But that's starting to happen more since we're changing the culture based on women's actual behavior. And as that change is taking place, women like her are not adapting to it well because they haven't had to.
Okay, I plan on pressing charges on him. But this right here, I feel like it's completely unacceptable. We had an argument as in a relationship. And y'all didn't see me put hands on me, but y'all saw me put hands on him. So, okay.
Excuse me.
So, am I going to jail?
You are going to jail.
Who's going to bail me out?
You can make a phone call when you get there.
Are you serious right now?
You have to go see a judge first before that.
Can I please make a call to my family right now?
Nope.
Are you serious? Can I make a concede for a protest for me? Are you serious? Oh my gosh, right now. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, okay. Who would I be able to call right now? Any numbers that I know?
You can bring your phone with you to jail.
Okay, thank you so
and
much.
when that happens, and you
So
can ask them.
when y'all let me go, can I call and press charges on him?
See this?
If possible?
See this?
But because y'all have me on camera,
Correct.
y'all arrested me, correct?
Correct.
And y'all didn't even listen to my side of the story. Y'all just arrested me, correct? So I just want to hear that part of the story. Because
Now, they asked her side of the story long before they put cuffs on her, right? She's trying to portray herself as the victim. She's trying to fight. Really what she's doing is she's fishing. She's fishing for any chink in the armor, anything the cops might tell her or do for her that'll allow her to get out the situation, right? But the funny thing about it for men is, you know better than to ask if do you get to call somebody to make bail? These things come, but you got to go downtown. You don't have to get in the backseat of that car. These men don't ask these kind of questions because we already know. That's not really up for debate. Yeah, you'll get your call. It ain't gonna happen right now. You about to get in the backseat of this car.
I have proof that and if everything. Okay, I'm not even I'm not resisting. I just feel like this is crazy. And y'all didn't even listen to the woman side of the story, but y'all accept the fact that was on video.
Has she been read yet?
No, I haven't had read any rights read to me.
We're gonna go ahead and read your rights.
Please don't read me my rights, because I feel like, do I have to stay in jail for the night? Are you telling me that I have to go to jail for the night?
Yes.
Do I have money?
She's so shocked. And the funny thing about it, and I shouldn't say it's funny, but the reality of it is she's shocked about what people experience every day, what Black men in particular. And that's the thing that's going on in general. Whether we're talking about, you know, the kind of unemployment issues we're seeing in the Black community, particularly as it pertains to women, or whether we're talking about circumstances like this. And hell, even I have some other videos on high profile Black women being indicted and arrested. And we're seeing it more in this last few months, or really since January, than I've seen in years. The interesting thing about it is, and I've said this from the beginning, that Black women are now starting to experience Black male life. And you can see they are not adapting to it well. And for the longest time, we've been gaslit because they would tell us that there is no difference between Black male and female life. See, they like to push the narrative of this kind of vague Blackness, right? That because we're all Black and we all experience racism, it's all the same. And so anything you men are over there complaining and crying about, and they would say those kind of things in a very emasculating way, you're putting extras on it. It's not that real. If anything, if you act more like me, you'll be more successful. If you follow what I'm trying to tell you to do, if you spoke right, if you carried yourself right, if you used the right tone, if you said the right words, you'd be able to navigate the society as I do. The reason you as Black men are not doing as well, remember the Rebecca Lynn Pope video that came out a couple of years ago, women are running circles around Black men, right? This is the narrative that many Black women have bought into. If you just learn to act right, you'd be able to navigate as smoothly as we do. They owned that they would not own, I should say, that they had any greater access or different treatment as far as the state is concerned. They operated as if the fault was strictly Black males, and Black males were just incapable. Our incapability was the problem. Now that has been removed, the infrastructure that has allowed them to function and navigate society in a way where they weren't held as accountable as we, has been removed, or is in the process of being removed, and they're starting to experience the Black male quality of life. And it is jarring. Her response is reflective of a lot of women in the last 8 months in particular, who are starting to realize, or at least are unable to continue claiming that they don't see the difference between how Black men and women. You know, the only women that I normally would have that will admit to me that there's a difference in the quality of life between Black males and females are mothers, Black mothers. Those will be the ones that will reach out to me out of the blue and ask me to consult, give them some advice, and they'll tell me stories. And they'll be like, look, I got a 5-year-old, I got an 8-year-old, I got a 13-year-old Black male. And even though I grew up with brothers, or I may have grown up in an all-female family, I just never thought there was any difference until I saw how my son was treated. Until I saw how there weren't programs available to him like they were for my daughter, or like there were for me. And that's when I started to realize that there's something different. That's the first kind of chink in the armor. That's the first moment of revelation. Like, wait a minute, my son. It has to be someone in her nest, right? It can't be, the guy next to her. It can't be the guy she used to date. It's usually their sons. And that's when they start to open up and realize there's a difference in our quality of life and our experience that I've never had to confront. I mean, they could always dismiss it. And again, they would gaslight Black men by telling us we were lying, right? Because we're supposed to be abusers, we're supposed to be monsters, we're supposed to be all these kind of things. But when you start to point out Black male vulnerability, when you start to point out the limited access, when you start to talk about the differential treatment, then they would gaslight you and tell you it doesn't exist. Now they're starting to live in it and navigate it. And in some respects, they're starting to look to us for support, which is what Sha'Carri kind of started to do. Every time she yelled at Christian, she would emasculate him, but at the same time, she was also trying to get him to operate on her behalf. In essence, you're less than a man, but come save me, because look what you put me in now that I'm going to jail. And she thinks that this kind of insult yet request for help is going to work on her behalf, but she thinks that not because she's an idiot. She thinks that because that's how she's been socialized. She's been socialized to believe that this is an appropriate kind of response for a Black woman in this situation, because fundamentally, it's always Jermaine's fault.
Honey, if I can bail out tonight, can I bail out tonight?
No, it's
You have to
easy.
see a jail.
I
You
have
have to see a
to
judge.
stay in jail for the night? Are you kidding me right now?
I'm not
I have to go to jail tonight?
Hold on.
I'm not arguing.
Notice how shocked she is at the very idea that she might have to go to jail for the night. She's shocked, right? Brothers aren't shocked when they get locked up, even if it is for a day. You're not shocked that you got to stay there, but she's shocked because it hasn't been something that they've had to really navigate in any large numbers.
Wait, I'm just
All right,
asking
you have the right
questions.
to remain
Can I
silent.
get out tomorrow?
Anything that can be used.
Get out tomorrow?
You have the right to talk to a lawyer.
I'm just asking, yes. Can I get out tomorrow?
If you can afford to hire a lawyer,
I can afford a lawyer.
For questions if you wish.
Okay, I have a lawyer.
And the whole tactic of talking over men, which is something we are incredibly familiar with as Black men. If you grow up in Black families or you have Black relationships, this talking over. Now I see women do it with each other a lot, but enough men have voiced how disrespectful this is and they continue to do it. So for her to be doing it while being arrested, kind of tells you in and of itself how she sees them, right? Most brothers in a situation like this understand that the point of resolving the matters is probably going to be, either when you see a judge or, when you have a family member come lay bail down. It's not going to be at this point. Whatever it is, by the time they put you in cuffs and they're walking you to a car, you're not going back and forth arguing with the cops because it's not going to be resolved at that level. Black men know this, but for the most part, we know this. The fact that she doesn't speaks to how shocked she is that this is happening and how dare it happen to me. This is beneath me as a Black woman. I should not have to endure this. And the only reason I am is because he made me act the way I acted and he got me in trouble with these cops. This is Black male shit. This is not supposed to apply to me.
I can pay for a lawyer.
All right, I'm just gonna go ahead and just take everything out of your pocket.
Okay, but on my phone, all the numbers that I have. Okay, I'm not arguing. I'm just saying that all the numbers that I have are on my phone.
These rights I've explained to
Are you
you.
serious right now?
Yes.
Are you serious right
Yes,
now?
I am.
I can pay for it for me to get out of this
That's not even
situation.
out of it.
You understand your rights?
I understand my right.
Okay.
Are you serious right now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not gonna fight you. Take whatever you need. Just take it. Just take it.
Just relax.
I'm not fighting or resisting.
She's over here talking about I'm not going to fight you. But all of this talk for men will sometimes be considered resistance in and of itself. Ain't nobody considering that. These cops are not worried about her. And this is the thing I noticed what I was talking about earlier when cops arrest Black women, they'll pop off at the mouth in much more extreme ways than this. And the cops will let it slide and continue to talk to her no matter how irrational she gets. For men, it's a very different equation.
Thank you. No, let me know. I just want to record that I'm not resisting.
Okay.
I'm in a domestic violent relationship. And y'all capturing me. I can show you proof of me being in a domestic violent relationship. And he won't even come out here enough to help
Do you
me.
have anything underneath this?
No, I just have only a bra.
You just have a bra.
I just have a bra on.
Thank you. Just make sure there's nothing in there.
Who would I have to call to get out of jail? I just have a bra. It's not me that. Like, I don't have a bra. Who would I have to call to get out of jail? So I have to stay with me?
Checkpoint.
Can I call anybody?
Yes.
On again,
Who
off
would I
again,
be able
wait
to
for him.
call? I don't know. I'm not lying.
Interviewed him and
I don't know. Somebody can go ahead and say, hey, this is the number I need.
You want to take your cash with you?
Okay, thank you.
You want to take your cash with you to go?
Yes, can I bail myself out?
You got to see a judge first.
I have to see a judge. Like, I can't even bail myself out.
I think the average Black male watches situations like this online and we're astounded. All this conversation, all these questions, these answers, the back and forth, it's mind blowing. I've had several instances of being thrown over the hood of a car and put in cuffs just because a cop suspected I did something by walking down the street. There wasn't a lot of this kind of conversation. Matter of fact, I remember explicitly being told, shut the fuck up. And I hadn't done anything. They didn't have me on camera doing anything. This used to happen to me when I was walking to school. And it's happened several times. So even though I'm not, that hasn't happened since I was a teenager, this kind of scenario still blows my mind. All this conversation can take place. And I don't think that, many women are even, cognizant of the fact that this is not how we get arrested. There's not a lot of this. There's a degree of entitlement happening here in terms of what she expects and what the cops are willing to do, even as far as the conversation they're having.
Can he say that I wasn't being domestic? Like, we had an argument as a relationship. Okay, I'm not resisting. I promise you. I don't have anything in my pocket. I'm just asking. If he says that I wasn't being domestic, y'all still are going to arrest me no matter what, correct? Y'all still going to arrest me. So I have to stay in jail overnight tonight because of him? And he's not going to come and bail me out?
I'm gonna put your ID back in here.
Okay, I just have a question. Can I get bailed out tonight?
Not tonight.
So I have to stay in jail tonight? Are you serious right now?
Yeah, I gotta see a judge in the morning.
Please, like, he can tell you that we were arguing. I'm not resisting. Please do what you gotta do. I'm not resisting.
Let me just ask the brothers in here. If you start crying, please, I shouldn't have to be arrested. And see, like the act of, or even the performance of crying or tears, which women are notorious for, and white women have down to a martial art. They have it down to a martial art. I was watching the old 1970 something King Kong the other night with my son, and we were laughing about the special effects and just watching the flick. And I forgot that there was a moment where King Kong had grabbed up Jessica Lange and she started crying. You know what I mean? And I was thinking about that in terms of what I've learned since I was a little kid watching this movie, and I realized that's a weapon. And it's a weapon that women use, white women in particular, use so smoothly and so it effortlessly, conjuring up. And sometimes they don't even cry. They perform crying. And we respond to it because we've been socialized to. Like Kong, backed up off of her, holding her in his hand because she started crying. So what Sha'Carri just did in Amendment with the please, she's starting to invoke that kind of chivalrous response. But the reality is nobody here is threatening her. She's not being slammed against walls or to the ground. So they're listening, but she's still going in the backseat of that car. But she's not being threatened, but she knows to invoke it. And that's the point I wanted to raise right here. She knows to invoke it because it gets a response. How many times have you had an argument with your girl and you are clarifying what the situation is and she breaks into tears and you back down? And I'm talking about going back to high school. How many times have you actually, and you feel it in your chest? Okay, let me back off. She's crying. This is how we're socialized, right? So she's invoking it here. She's really throwing anything at the wall, trying to see what will stick. And it's so interesting when you actually step back and you watch how women respond. They have a series of key responses to uncomfortable situations, and crying, vulnerability is one of those responses that we're trained to back up off of. But we are not trained to see her emotional kind of plea for empathy and chivalry as an attack. It's counterintuitive for us because that's not our socialization, right? We don't learn to see it as a martial art. They learn how to use it in childhood. And I can tell you, as a friend of fathers of girls, they are much more keen. And sometimes because they've observed it and learned from it, and sometimes because they just respond to the shit and haven't thought it through. But either way, I've watched little girls, 1 year old, 2 years old, know that daddy's going to respond a certain way if I cry. I just watched, I've just posted a scene from the Cosby Show on my Facebook page, and it was, for those that remember, it was Denise. She was supposed to leave with her husband to go live in their house, and she ruined the application process because she was too scared to get home, right? The husband took the blame, told the family it was his fault. Cliff agreed, and he accepted that they were going to have to stay with them another 6 months, and they left. Claire pulled her daughter into the kitchen and called her out on it because she was the only one that saw it, and she held her accountable, right? But my point is, weaponizing vulnerability is something that women are a little more keen to as mothers, especially of little girls. But fathers, we can be weak to it. But I met some wise fathers that know the deal, and these girls learn this shit at a very young age. It's very much a part of their arsenal, and we have not learned how to see it as the weapon it's often used for.
Can he tell you that we were arguing? Like, can he come here and tell you that we were arguing? Like, does that help me at all? Are you serious? Please, I have a question. Does that help at all that he come out and say we were arguing? Okay, I'm not resisting, please. Nobody got to do it. But can he come and say that we were arguing? Like, we're in a relationship. We had a argument. Can he come and say that we were arguing? Like, that's what I'm asking. Like, we don't know this relationship. Like, I know y'all understand that. But I have to go to jail tonight. Like, even if I bail out and he says that he's not even out here.
We don't have any discussion about that. The judges, we have to go to jail and we have to see.
Are you serious? We're gonna have work, like everything. We're in a relationship. We have.
Now you're hearing all of that in her voice. You see any tears yet? And you need to ask yourself this. Next time you find yourself in an argument with your girl and she's starting to flip out and she starts acting like she's crying, just take a moment and ask yourself, are there any tears? And that's not to say that tears can't be used to manipulate, because they do. But much of the time, they don't even have to cry before they get a response. And so learning those little steps can often help you navigate women's emotions, because they know what we're triggered to do. And if we're not paying attention, we'll respond in kind. But if you just ask yourself a couple of key questions in the moment, is she actually crying? And even if she is crying, right? Talking her through it, asking questions, actually asking yourself questions about how you responded to it. Slow everything down and really pay attention to what's actually happening. Because much of the time, you're probably being manipulated.
Arguments, and that's how y'all gonna treat me. He's not even out here. Can y'all talk to him? But I'm going to jail. Are you serious? I'm not pushing. I'm not resisting. I don't have anything on.
I know. I just have to check.
I don't have anything on. You got everything. I don't have anything.
I just have
Are you
to check.
serious? He's not even coming out to vouch for me. Can he come and vouch for me? Like nothing. I'm just asking questions. I'm not resisting at all. He can't come out here? Are you
You
serious?
guys have a chance to talk.
Are you serious, ma'am? We had an argument. I'm not resisting. Can y'all just talk to me as a person? I would.
Now, BGS pointed out something that I thought was definitely on point when he covered this. You know, the way she talked about the entire situation was basically, we had an argument. By saying we had an argument, we had a back and forth. That was her way of describing the domestic violence she initiated against him. And the argument is, the framework that she's using is, because we were arguing, I'm allowed to do this to him. This is within the realm of acceptability, that I'm able to put hands on him. I mean, I didn't take a baseball bat to his head. I didn't pull a gun on him. You know, I pushed him, I hit him a few times, but we were arguing, which is now a justification for her behavior. And again, we're only arguing because he made me do it. So all of that in her mind is within the framework of what's acceptable, because she's a woman and because she's been socialized to believe she's allowed to put hands on him without any repercussions. All right. So even all of this writing, he can't come outside, all of this kind of stuff, it's because it's breaking from what she's familiar with.
Legit, leave him alone. Like, I won't go nowhere near him, please.
We don't have that discretion on this
I'm
call.
asking you. I haven't done anything but argue with my boyfriend.
We have you.
I had a boyfriend. We had an
I
argument.
understand that. However,
I don't have a car. I had a layover. Are you serious right now? Are you dead ass right now? And I have to stay in jail overnight for this?
You have to see a
I
judge.
can't even bail out tonight.
Correct.
Can I at least pay for bail? I cannot bail out.
She's expecting so much empathy and is oblivious to how little Black men have grown used to, not only with police officers, but shit, even in relationships. We're used to very little empathy. If anything, one of the major complaints I've heard Black men make over the last decade online about relationships has to do with the coldness, the combativeness, the argumentative, behavior. All of that really speaks to just a lack of basic affection, kindness. Black men have grown very used to not getting any of that, and now are seeking it out elsewhere. The moment we found out that it could be gained elsewhere, that we had traction in the world with women who are socialized differently to be affectionate, to extend that to men. And we didn't do it quickly. There are many of us that are still dragging our feet on the process, but at the end of the day, when you can find that you don't have to be treated in this way, it's mind-blowing, especially when you've grown up with it and it's all you've ever seen. Even within your own family, it's hard to really wrap your head around affection. I remember Patrice O'Neal talked about that when he talked about, when these young guys go to college and start dating other kinds of women. And he was talking about the word okay, right? And he did this long bit about how different it was and how you respond to a girl going, okay, can you make me a sandwich? Can you bring me some water? Okay. I've had half-hour arguments over, can you bring me some water? But hearing someone just say, okay, right? So these are the kind of things that people are responding to.
Can I at least take the clothes off in the back seat? Please. I'm not going to resist y'all.
You want the coat off?
My name is Sha'Carri Richardson.
Do you have any weapons on your
No, I don't have anything. You can put my hat off. I don't have anything on me.
So I'm just your transport vehicle?
Can you please take these off?
Unfortunately, not. No.
I I'm not a criminal. I'm not a criminal. I had an argument with my boyfriend. You know what?
I'm not a criminal, right? So when black men get arrested, even unjustly, you know, it's kind of acceptable because the underlying idea is they're criminals. But when you find yourself in the backseat of a police car for something you actually did, it doesn't resonate with her. She's committed a crime. It doesn't resonate with her that she's actually done the thing she's being arrested for, because as a woman, she's not a criminal. That's this kind of treatment should be reserved for black men, as far as she's concerned.
I'm not resisting. I'm still in the car. This is crazy. Y'all not even listening to me. I do. You want me to take it off?
And this is a thing I've noticed in relationships too, that you're not listening to me. Now understand what actually comes in that statement. It's not that nobody's listened to her. They've been listening to her for the last 18 minutes. It's not the issue that nobody's listening to her. It's that nobody's doing what she wants them to do. Right? That's what listening means to a lot of people, particularly a lot of women. It means that you're doing what I want you to do. I remember I had a relationship with a woman used to say that you don't listen to me. And I would recount everything she said to me. I said, no, it's not that I'm not listening to you. I don't agree with you. There's a difference. And it would never resonate with her that it was possible to hear her and just disagree with her. As far as she was concerned, the two things were one. If you heard me, you agree with me. If you disagree with me, you must not have heard me. No, I heard you and I disagree with you. Doesn't even resonate. And it's not resonating with Sha'Carri, right? You all are not listening to me. No, they listened. They listened. They're still listening. They've been listening to you the whole time. You're just wrong. Hasn't even crossed her mind that she's wrong.
It's not a weapon. Like, I'm not resisting. I'm not arguing with my boyfriend.
I know, but you gotta.
Hey, y'all, please just listen to me as a person.
I have.
It's Sha'Carri.
You have to go ahead and. Yep, thank you.
This is crazy. Are you serious right now? Because I'm arguing with my boyfriend.
You guys get the phones that were?
Okay, we're gonna stop it here. There's a little bit left, but you know, the real point of what I wanted to show here was how willing she was to throw him under the bus. That was the real thing I wanted to get at. Now, the rest of it, I just couldn't help because there was so much going on. But here's the thing. So I wanted to show how she was willing to throw him under the bus for a reason. And we're going to get to it in a moment, but I'm going to show you another video clip. And this has to do with another quote unquote celebrity. Let's see. Here we go. All right. Where are you? There we go. So here it is. Shout out to Pink Book. I like showing clips from Pink Book because she keeps the record. You know, so black women's behavior, Pink Book be on it. In this particular video, we're only going to watch about 2 minutes of it, but you know, I'm sure some of you guys are familiar with this situation, right? So check this out, and I'll explain why I've showed both in a minute.
Rundown. Both Tayana and Iman appeared in court with their attorneys after accusing each other of being in contempt of the judge's order. It all started with her accusing him of leaking their information about their divorce settlement. She went down and filed official paperwork asking the judge for two things. Number one, she wanted him to pay her legal fees. And number two, she told the judge she wanted him thrown in jail. And don't gloss over that, because I see that's what all the flamingos are doing. Over a baseless claim that Tayana concocted herself, she wanted a judge to literally lock him up. So Iman and his attorneys, they responded by saying, no, Your Honor, Tayana is actually the one in contempt, and she's the one who dragged us here with false claims and tried to have my client jailed. So we're asking that she face the same exact punishment that she was demanding for him. That's only fair, right? Yeah, Iman's legal team didn't come to play. They came back with receipts like, let's get something straight. Tayana is the one out here violating court orders. And since she was the one trying to throw her ex in jail over her own lies, they said that she should be the one found in contempt, ordered to pay all legal fees. And since she brought up jail time, that jail cell should specifically be reserved for her instead. At that point, out of nowhere, she wanted to walk back her original request to have her ex-husband jailed. Why? Probably because she realized that trying to get someone locked up based on lies was about to backfire. But yeah, Iman's side stood firm. They told the judge, absolutely not. We're not backing down. She's the reason we're in court. She's the one who started this mess, and she needs to be held accountable. Why play mercy games with someone who tried to weaponize the court system out of pure spite? So after reviewing the testimony, the witnesses, and all the submitted evidence, the judge ruled that Tayana willfully violated the court order by publicly disclosing information she was legally prohibited from sharing. Her claims against Iman, thrown out. Her request for legal fees, denied. Jail time for Iman? Absolutely not. Instead, the only one who walked out of the courtroom with a bill was Tayana Taylor herself, who was ordered to pay $70,000 to cover his attorney fees but the judge spared her from jail. Now, that's what happened. But instead of focusing on Tayana's actual lies and character flaws exposed in court, what are they doing out here on the feminist-led social media streets? They're deflecting. Suddenly, the conversation shifts to, see, this is why women shouldn't marry men who make less money than them. They're not saying women shouldn't lie on men to gain favor with the public, or women shouldn't weaponize the system against men using lies. No one is addressing that at all. They're acting like Tayana is being ordered to pay these $70,000 in legal fees because she's making more income since he's not playing in the NBA anymore. No.
See, so they shift to emasculation. But, you know, the reason I wanted to show that particular clip is because just like Sha'Carri in the last one, both were willing to weaponize the state on one level or another against their men or against black men, period, right? They're willing to do it. One is using the police or attempting. She tried several times to use the police on her behalf because that's been something that black women have been allowed to do. And the other tried to use the courts. Now, let me switch up here a little bit. Right. A couple of years ago, I developed the concept or, the term pitbulling. And when I talk about pitbulling, it basically is the act of a black female using a black man like an attack dog, usually against another black male. Not primarily out of fear or danger, but as a means of control, discipline, or retaliation, weaponizing chivalry while keeping him on a leash, right? So in other words, pitbulling, which is a verb, noun, or an adjective, is really the use of black men as an attack dog. And I've shown cases over the last 7-8 years about all kinds of scenarios when this is taking place, right? But it doesn't really apply in the same way when you have a woman that's willing to use law enforcement as a weapon against her man, right? And this is something I've been hearing about my whole life. Hell, I remember, matter of fact, it's even in a couple of documentaries I show in my classes. Black women were willing to use the Black Panthers, the police. They were willing to use anything against their men. And contrary to the popular feminist notion that it was all in self-defense, no. Sometimes it was just a pure flex. Sometimes it was strictly because she could, to implement her will and to keep him in line. Right. And this was all considered acceptable behavior for years. But I call it pitbulling for obvious reasons. But I wanted to make a variation on that because we actually have to start talking about how this thing applies when you start talking about law enforcement. So when you start talking about law enforcement, we need to talk about blue leashing. Blue leashing, which too is a verb, noun, or adjective, is the act of a black woman calling law enforcement on a black man, not primarily out of fear or danger, but as a means of control, discipline, or retaliation, weaponizing state power to keep him on a leash. It is the specific act of a woman being able to do this. And understand, in most other cultures, most other communities, women don't really, haven't really had that kind of power over their men. Now, obviously, at the rise of feminism, this began to happen and women were able to implement it. Black women actually used it in a fashion that went beyond the pale of protection, self-defense. It was something we experienced as men as something that was weaponized against us, right? This is what I call blue leashing. So whether you call the police on your man, and I've shown cases like this over the years, I've shown video cases of this where people are talking about their experience with it, talking about other people's experiences with it. I've shown you cases, and I put some on my blog that are still up there, where women will tell the man in question, I am going to call the cops and tell them you hit me. Not because he hit her, but because she's mad at him. And more to the point, because he didn't do what she wanted him to do. But to date, I had never really heard a term that applied for when women do this. And it's particularly, the reason I term this also as something that's specific to the Black community is not because it doesn't happen elsewhere, although I would argue it happens with us more than likely, more than any other group, but because we all know the specific history around law enforcement and Black men, Black males, I should say, because even boys experience desperate treatment by law enforcement in this country, more particularly. And you have women who are willing to weaponize law enforcement against boys and men simply because they can. Now, this is a behavior like pitbulling. Pitbulling really it starts in childhood. I mean, the first time you ever heard a girl talk about, I'm gonna go get my brothers on you, even if you didn't do anything to her, simply because she could, and she liked the idea that she could get you beat up just because she was mad at you for whatever reason. I'm not talking about some girl who was, beat up by a guy and she got her brothers to protect her. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about girls who flexed because they could. They enjoyed the power of it. They enjoyed the rush. They enjoyed the degree to which you would back off and do what she wanted because she threatened you, right? With proxy power in some fashion, right? But when you apply that, so that's the beginnings of it, and it can evolve into pitbulling and into adulthood. But when you apply it to using law enforcement, that's now we're talking about blue leashing, and this has been going on, for the longest. We just never named it. We never talked about it, but I wanted to give it a term so that we can highlight it and call it out more effortlessly, call it out more directly, with a focus on the underlying rationale behind it. It's not about justice. It's not about protection. It's a flex, and it's about control. It's about controlling you. And I want to be clear about that, because this has been going on for so long. It amazes me. I mean, I can call it, well, if my grandfather was still here, bless the dead. But if I can call him and ask him, I can tell him what blue leashing was, and I can ask him in his childhood, had he ever seen it? And knowing my grandfather, he can give you an hour lecture on it without preparation. This is something that old men have been seeing for years. We just never called it anything. But I want to be clear that this has been going on. It's not new. So I'm not developing a concept for something new. I'm naming something that we've all grown up seeing. We just never bothered to really put into context. This is what we're looking at. So when you look at Sha'Carri and what she did, she attempted to blue leash Christian. She was in trouble for her behavior, but she threw it out to the cops that she had quote unquote evidence of him putting hands on her as an effort, as a gesture toward trying to get the cops to move off of her, leave her alone, and lock him up, while at the same time lying to the cops about the fact that she actually initiated the contact. This is what we got to start being cognizant of, and we need to clarify, and this is the purpose of my channel. I told y'all this when I started the channel. We need to create terminology that best reflects our experience, because what other term, even if we just take this one of Black women using the police or judges in courts, because we haven't even talked about family court. How many of you have heard about Black men being blue leashed in family court, where the woman is using the court against you, whether it's a false accusation of molestation of the children to get custody, or to increase child support, whatever it is, all the tactics used, many of which are suggested by women's lawyers at this point. What do we call that? We don't pretend like we don't know that this happens. Well, as long as it doesn't have a concept or a term, we can continue to do that, and people can gaslight us and pretend like it doesn't happen. We have to call it out, and we have to continue to create the terminology we need to articulate our experiences. That's the purpose, or one of the purposes behind why I started this show. Because when I was in graduate school, even though I wasn't really explicitly dealing with Black male issues yet, I was just starting to, consider them. What I noticed, many of the feminists that I had studied under and studied with, their gesture toward Black men was, we've already developed all the concepts we need, and they're universal. They fit everybody. So, you can use one of ours. But what I found is that a lot of their terminology and a lot of the ideas and concepts, and especially policies that were created for their benefit, didn't function in the same way for us. Didn't operate on our behalf strictly because we were human beings and we were deserving of some manner of human level basic respect. None of it. The concepts didn't work for us. The terminology didn't work for us. And it didn't completely capture what we were experiencing. So I want you guys to consider this. And as you know, and I talked about this last year, I think it was when Dennis Sperling had me consult on a case where he was setting precedent in court. These are the kind of terms that you can actually bring up and use in different settings. If you know what I mean, that's why I'm giving you the definition in writing. This is a concept or a term that I've created, so you can invoke my name if need be in regard to articulating how something has been working against you in a very particular way. Terms have power, but only the power you give to them and what you do with it. So this is one I want you to consider in regard to how we've really been treated. Now, let me see. I want to be clear about something else. Now, there's a couple more that I want to put on the table. Hold on. Now, we're going to get into some other areas here. And the formal term for the area we're going to get into is custodial grape, right? It's a form of grape which takes place while the victim is in custody and constrained from leaving, and the grapists or ists are agents of power that is keeping the victim in custody. We're going to delve into this. Now, this is the formal term. This is the term. This is not one that I've created. This is one that has been in use for a while, but I'll tell you why I'm talking about it in a moment. So, damn it. Hold on. Put it in the right order here. Oh, I see what I did. All right. It was in the right order. It was just not lit up. All right. So check this out. Let's try this one. There we go. All right. So, okay. So it looks like I cut off the top. South Carolina woman reveals her plans after becoming a correctional officer. And what she says at the bottom is, they don't let the wrong bee become a correctional officer. I already see who I'm gonna be effing every night. Right. So this is a person who, now, you know, with these memes, you never know how real it is, you know, whether it's just made up, whatever, but it points nonetheless to a real situation. It points to a real situation. One that needs to be talked about, needs to be kind of foregrounded. And I'll show you why. Here we go. This is an article you can find on CBS News. This is dated July 23rd of last year. Lawsuit claims sexual abuse went on for decades at Cook County Juvenile Detention Center. Now, this is not new, right? This is last year, but this has been going on for years. Absolutely years. But I tried to pull up a recent one, and this is one I've covered on my show. But I just wanted to make sure that it was new, just so you guys could see that I'm not necessarily making this up. This is a real thing. And I'm actually going to read a portion from the article. So it reads, a total of 156 men and 37 women were among the plaintiffs in the lawsuit. Attorneys said the victims were all between the ages of 9 and 17 when the abuse happened. Attorneys for the plaintiffs say their clients were sexually abused while underage at the detention center during a time span that crosses several decades, from 1995 to 2022. Nearly 4,000 plaintiffs are now attached to different lawsuits alleging sexual abuse of juveniles in their facilities. Almost 400 cases have now been filed against the state alleging abuse at Illinois juvenile detention centers, attorneys said. Now, this is not limited to underage boys. Grown men have to deal with this. I'm sure many of you remember Mike Tyson talking about having sex with prison guards while he was when he was in prison, right? This can be implemented. Now, most of the time when I hear it talked about, it's talked about more in terms of how female guards are being intimidated into sex with male inmates, right? But again, going back to the formal kind of definition of what I put up a little moment ago, custodial grape, right? It actually speaks to a person in a position of power in a correctional facility. Guards, staff, so on and so forth. They're all in positions of power. So unless somebody has, pinned them down and graped them, the sexual act between them is generally considered one that is top down in terms of power, hierarchy, right? The person who has an official position and the inmate. So whether it's at a detention center for juveniles or in a, adult prison, either way, right, is generally considered an act that goes one way in terms of power. So I wanted to talk about this in a very specific context because it speaks to another concept that I want to, oh man, I think I posted some of these too high. So let me bring it down a little so you guys can all see it. Bear with me. All right, almost there. Oh, come on now. There we go. I think that should work. And let me just go ahead and jump to the next one as well, because I think I cut that one off. I like to have this stuff done, but I apologize. All right. So hopefully that covers it. All right. So, all right. Let me get rid of this. So this is still happening. And I tried to show you something current. So, you know, this is not just something I'm pointing to from past years. Although there was a period, actually, I think up till 1999, where there, you know, there was hundreds of thousands of juveniles that had come forward about their abuse. But this is still occurring. And that's why I showed you the article. All right. It's still a little cut off. I apologize. But anyway, this is another concept I want you to become familiar with. Now, in an academic setting, I would probably call it carceral grooming, but colloquially speaking, I would just call it barbreaking, right? It too is a verb, noun, and an adjective. It is the sexual exploitation or rape of incarcerated Black men by Black female correctional officers, carried out under the cover of institutional authority. The term links the carceral setting, bars, with the historical practice of buck breaking, where Black men were sexually violated to assert dominance. Barbreaking identifies the act as a gendered abuse of power and names Black female perpetrators as active agents in the sexual domination of Black men. Right. So this has to do with situations where, and there was actually a film I saw a number of years ago on BET, and it was a brother who was getting out of jail and he was trying to, you know, start his life over. And one of the pressures he had on him was his, what was it? I think it was his parole officer. And it was a parole officer was a Black woman that required that he have sex with her on a regular basis, or else she was going to send him back to jail. And it stars Omari Hardwick is in the film. It's one of his earlier films, right before he played Ghost. And so he ends up being the friend that, you know, so his boy brings his friend in to have sex with her instead. And she accepts it because it's Omari Hardwick, right? But the point is, what blew me away about the movie was that they actually showed it, because a lot of people don't talk about this dynamic. When you have women that are in positions of authority, right, with white collar positions over you, whether you're operating in a juvenile facility and they are the staff, they are the correctional guards, they are even teachers or COs or parole officers, when they have authority over you. Now, we talk about sex being required. Most of us don't talk about that thing, right? That at all, because most of us would just rib each other, you know, you know, about a woman wanting to have sex with you and you being unwilling. But at the end of the day, when it's somebody you don't want to have sex with, requiring it of you or threatening to put you back in jail or extend your sentence in some fashion, the threat is real. The threat is real, right? So barbreaking speaks to that. It speaks to, you know, correctional officers, staff, and, you know, prison staff, any type of law enforcement framework where, you know, they're actually violating you sexually, specifically when it comes to Black female correctional officers and Black male inmates, right? Now, there's another dimension to this as well. Now, I'm going to play, this is about close to 5 minutes from this brother who was at one point in a correctional facility as a juvenile, and he's still in, at least at the time of this last recording, but he talks about something that happened to him when he was in a juvenile facility. And I thought it was pretty important because it speaks to something we, again, don't talk about. So check this out, right? So I'm going to play about 5 minutes of this and listen closely to what he talks about here.
When I was in camp, my mother had just passed away. And
okay, hold on. I sped it up. And I might have sped it up a little too much. I think he talks a little fast, so I'm gonna slow it to 125 and we'll try again. So he talks about being in a juvenile facility and his mother had passed away. So here we go.
I was really angry. So I used to just pick fights with people. And one day, somebody who was working, a probation officer, that's what they call a DPO. I'm not gonna say her name. She came to talk to me and asked me why wasn't I so social? And I told her what I was going through. So she gave me a lending hand. She used to talk to me. She put me out class and talk to me. And one day, while we alone during school, she performed oral sex on me. And then from then on, she kind of like forced me to be in a relationship with her. I was a kid. I was too young to consent. I was going through too much duress to consent. She was sitting on my face, just doing everything that a kid shouldn't be doing. Everything a kid should not have no parts in. She was forcing me to do. She used to make stupid comments. Like, it was a dude who he was from 18th Street. He had just recently got out of juvenile hall out of camp. He was only out about 2 weeks, and he got unalived. And it was, it was sad because a lot of his friends were still there. And anybody that you know that you go through a traumatic event with, and when I say traumatic, I'm gonna say being in juvenile hall, because that's a traumatic experience you become close to. And it was just a sad scenario to see that this dude, so young, maybe 17 at the time, get murdered. But I remember her calling me inside the office, and she wasn't my probation officer, so she wasn't in charge of my case or giving me phone calls. But she called me inside the office and was like, I was thinking, your mama just passed away. I don't want you to go out there by yourself. I was thinking about refiling on you so you can stay with me another 6 months. How would you like that? I'm like, what? Stay in jail another 6 months? Are you crazy? Then she said, you ain't got no mama or nothing. You ain't got no family. I was appalled. I was crazy. I was like, hold on, wait. You think just because my mother passed away, I don't got a family? Like, I don't go to visit him. Like, my grandma was coming up here every weekend to come visit me. Like, I didn't have a father. Like, I didn't have sisters who loved me. And at the time, no, I didn't think it was anything wrong with it. Because I was a kid. But now that I have a son, I think, dang, what if my son is 15 years old and a 40-year-old woman is sitting on his face?
Now, that's real talk. That's real talk. And I'm going to be brief because I want him to continue. But I can tell you from personal experience, there's a lot of stuff I just really wasn't that invested in until I had a child. And I guess fundamentally, part of me didn't even believe innocence was a real thing until I held this baby, right, coming out of my wife. And I saw innocence for the very first time. And so all of a sudden, there are so many things that became a problem for me, not because even things that happened to me that I just accepted and didn't care about. When I thought about it affecting my son, I just would lose it. Like so I came to understand, just like what he's talking about, how offensive these concepts are. But it took thinking about my child. It didn't even affect me. It didn't bother me. I was violated before I was 10 by a male and a female. It didn't register for me. But when I thought about, every time I sent my son to sleep over someone's house or even visit distant family, now all of a sudden my own experiences scared the shit out of me, because it wasn't about me, it was about him. And so what he's talking about is real. Sometimes we need to advocate for someone we care about before it bothers us, because sometimes we accept the stuff that's already happened to us and we keep it moving. But if we can prevent it from happening to our children, now you get a whole different response. So he's dead on right here. And it probably took him having a son to see most of this as a problem.
Or, man, doing all that stuff to him, I would be furious. Because at the end of the day, it's RAPE. It is. And that's what any parent subjects their child to. When you just leave them inside the system, when you put them around strangers, why would you let a stranger be in charge of raising your child? I was taught so many wrong things. My mother died, and I raised myself after that. And I wasn't the only one. Every female had a little boy toy that was in camp with, bro. Everybody. And want to go home, and you would be like, what the heck? I thought she was so in love with Wooty Woo. As soon as he done went home, the next big dog in camp, she dealing with now. These females was getting pregnant and all type of stuff by minors. Minors. Playing with our mail. I remember females used to write me. She used to take my mail. Used to tell me, these little fast-ass girls writing you again. Need to tell these fast-ass girls, stop writing my man. And I'm thinking back in my head, like, you Jigglypuff, you big round. Yeah, she was big and round. You big round bowling ball body. Man. But I ain't gonna get too deep into it because, like I said, that's personal. I just want to share my personal experience.
All right. So let's recount what we've heard him talk about, right? He talked about being a juvenile, underage, having a 40-year-old correctional officer that worked at the center, right? Start engaging him in sex acts, right? And then at a specific point in time, trying to convince him to let her extend his sentence so he'll have to stay longer after his mother died so she could continue to have sex with him, right? He talked about how as soon as the men that, and he said every one of them, for the most part, I wouldn't take it literally, but a good portion of these women were having sex with inmates, right, under the table. And as soon as one would get out, they'd be replaced with another, according to his story. And lastly, and this is the reason I waited for this video to play it at this point in the show, right, because he talked about women getting pregnant, right, in that position. Now, this is key. This is key to the last concept I'm going to share with y'all. And I'm going to tell you one reason why it's key. You remember this? Y'all remember this? This was all in the news last year, right? Lack of black sperm donors is a nationwide problem, right? And let me see. Oh, it erased. There was a portion I highlighted that kind of broke this down. There it is. All right. So let me highlight it for you. There you go. So for Black women, that's hard to do. A 2023 study from the American Society of Reproductive Medicine found that only 3% of sperm donors at the nation's largest donor banks are Black. It can be a complicated process for donors. So in other words, they were talking about this last year, how there were so few Black sperm donors that Black women who wanted to have children were highly frustrated about it. And that's not limited to LGBT couples or any of that. It was Black women, period, who wanted to have children without men, were frustrated about this. But that's just one dimension of why this last part that he brings up is so important, right? Because he's talking about women in positions of authority who are not just sexually violating the prisoners that they're dealing with, be they juveniles or adults. That's what we call barbreaking, but they're also barbreeding, right? Or another term for it would be carceral breeding. But it's a specific form of barbreaking in which Black female correctional officers rape incarcerated Black men with the deliberate intent of becoming pregnant. Barbreeding weaponizes both the power of confinement and reproductive extraction, reducing men to genetic resources while stripping them of consent, choice, and freedom. It is a fusion of carceral rape and reproductive control that mirrors historical patterns of forced breeding under slavery, updated within the modern prison system. So this is what we're looking at. And again, these terms have to come into existence because these are the things that Black men are experiencing. And we haven't had these concepts framed around our experience, and they need to be. So again, I talked about pitbulling, in terms of being used as an attack dog. I talked about blue leashing in terms of having law enforcement used against Black men, particularly by Black women. I'm talking about barbreaking, where Black women in positions of authority in correctional facilities are using their position, their power to demand and require sex from inmates, but also barbreeding, where the rest of the world may be struggling outside of a formal relationship or marriage to obtain sperm to reproduce without a man. But here you have a circumstance where women in positions of authority can get pregnant whenever they want, using the prisoners that operate underneath them. Now, again, I don't come up with these concepts to be cruel or to be hateful, but I am talking about ultimately what I have been talking about for years now on my show. And that is particularly about the gynocracy and how it functions, what it's wrought, what has been acceptable in the public's imagination, despite how horrendous it can sometimes be, and how we need to put it in the proper context so that we can actually operationalize and move, organize around what it is we want to see. Again, that's why we have the Black male political agenda, right? That's why we keep using it. We keep referring to it. We keep adding to it, because these are things that we need to begin to, put into a political context. But before we can do that, we first have to identify what the phenomena is, what is taking place. And how is it affecting Black men? How is it being used against Black men? How many of these men being sexually violated, or how many of them who are being used to impregnate women in positions of authority are able to put a case in their defense against the people they're dealing with? How many of them are able to do that? And this is not just women working in, correctional facilities. This is teachers. Hell, this is even nuns. A few years ago, I did a show where I was talking about, we looked at priests, and we all kind of knew from the news what was going on with priests and boys and so on and so forth. Arbitrarily, one night, I just decided to look up nuns, and blew me out of my chair. The stories that I heard about with nuns, documented stories going back a century on the kind of thing. And what made nuns so much more insidious than priests is that you had boys that didn't even know what sex was. One little boy was talking about, he thought sex was just kissing a girl on the lips, right? So he was like 10, 11 years old. This was a 28-year-old nun, I believe it was, and she started having sex with him. She got pregnant. The church found out. They moved her overseas. He never saw her again. He did find out she was pregnant as a young boy. He found out, and that meant the rest of his life, he never got to know what happened with his child, what happened to this woman, nothing. So not only was he violated the way priests might violate someone, but he was violated in a whole different way he couldn't fathom, and there was no room in public discourse for. He was a child who had a child that he'd never get to meet, and still had to suffer from being violated and go through the rigmarole of what comes with that, but have no kind of frame of reference, protection, or anything imposed on his behalf to deal with the fact that he had not only been violated, but it had resulted in reproduction. He doesn't know if the child was put up for adoption, if the child was raised. He didn't know if the nun was put out the church or just moved to another church. He knew nothing and never did find out. Never did, because by the time the story was recorded, he was an old man. Never got to find out. That's a whole different level of violation. So it's not just in correctional facilities. You can have these kind of acts being applied in a variety of contexts. And one of the things we've been seeing most is teachers. People are becoming very familiar with it, but there's not much outrage for it. But these teachers are starting to go to jail for violating underage boys, and many of them are married with kids. But in all these circumstances, the connecting fiber is power. These women in positions of power are flexing. Whether they're teachers, whether they're prison guards, wardens, or track runners like Sha'Carri, celebrities, doesn't matter. They're in positions of authority. They have power over others, and they're using that power. Some of them are starting to go to jail for it. They're clearly not ready for it. But I think we as a public still haven't wrapped our heads around just what has been taking place. We haven't even begun to produce the stats yet to tell us to what extent it's happening. But the fact that it is happening, and it's a unique experience for men who are dealing with a very particular type of victimization, they need to be able to articulate what it is. And eventually we need to be able to craft policy. Now, we do know, as was brought up earlier in the show, that guards having sex with inmates is already illegal, right? But we still need to be able to talk about how some of these things impact us. Because even though it's illegal, what then should we also add to the equation if she's successfully impregnated out of it? What if she wanted children? Couldn't have them in a conventional way, use prisoners to have them, had a couple. Is that part of the equation, right? Where men are not just used for sex, but also used for sperm, right? So Lionel says there's a lack of Black sperm donors because in some states, a woman that uses donor sperm by law can pursue the donor for child support regardless. There you go. Red Falls Black says only a fool would let his enemy teach his children, Malcolm X. And shout out to Lionel Player One and Red Falls Black for the donations. Shout out to Ghetto User. What's good with you, man? So support the show, plus the language or terms you've given us to help explain situations. Exactly. And that's what we need to do. So I offer you, those 4 terms: pitbulling, blue leashing, barbreaking, barbreeding, so that you can begin to really examine the kind of situations you've read about, heard about, experienced yourself, and be able to talk about how those things happen and what can be done about it. I'm looking forward to hearing you in the comment section. I want to know what you've heard, what you've experienced, what you've seen, and I hope that you will kind of walk us through so that we can begin to mobilize and develop what we need to develop on our behalf, or at least be aware of what can happen. Because if the rest of the public isn't going to talk about it, we damn sure need to at least be able to talk to each other about it. All right. So I appreciate y'all coming through. I'll be hollering at y'all soon. Talk to you later. Peace.